It's a real pleasure to serve as an officer of the American Peanut Shellers Association as we celebrate our 100th anniversary. Our anniversary date is April 5th, 2019. Of the 30-plus organizations, we are the first to reach the century milestone. Over the years, the association has consistently taken the leadership initiative to expand and advance the American peanut industry. From now until our anniversary date, we'll be releasing a video series entitled A Century of Success. The videos will be shown at industry meetings throughout the year and culminating at the April 5th, 2019 APSA Spring Conference in Albany. We hope you join us.
All videos contain interviews with members of the industry, both past and present. In late 1917 and early 1918, a group of Alabama, Florida, and Georgia commercial peanut shellers and crushers gathered in Atlanta to form the Southeastern Peanut Association. In a downtown Atlanta hotel on April 5, 1919, a charter was signed. The name was changed to American Peanut Shellers Association on November 30, 1993, and shelling companies from other states were included. In the early 1960s, the office was moved from Americus to Albany, Georgia. In August of 1986, the current headquarters office was completed. Our strength continues to be our members, our committees, and our board, working collectively to achieve annual goals and objectives. Two of the videos will have a historical perspective, titled Heritage 1 and Heritage 2.
The next two videos, Future 1 and Future 2, take a look of where we might go as an industry. Today, the American Peanut Shellers Association has 10 active member shelling companies and 145 associate members. Our members handle 90% of the peanuts grown in the United States. As we approach a new century, we are excited as per capita consumption is at an all-time high in the United States. We have a strong export market. Nutrition research continues to reinforce the healthy reasons for eating peanuts and peanut products. I might add that the American Peanut Shellers Association began the Peanut Institute in August of 1996. What an awesome move. Seed and production research has opened new doors. We provide support for millions of dollars in seed research each year. Manufacturers are marketing new peanut products. We embrace the future with a quest to be the best we can be.
The final video, Commemoration, will be released at the April 4th, 2019 celebration at the American Peanut Shellers Office headquarters in Albany, Georgia. It will be a special overview of the last 10 decades and a look forward. Please mark your calendar now for April 4th and 5th. Make plans to be in Albany. Join the festivities as the American Peanut Shellers Association celebrates its 100th anniversary.
The peanut industry is relatively small compared to the other grains and the corns and the soybeans and the cottons of the world. So subsequently, because the acreage and the poundage is small, the industry is rather small and it's rather close-knit.
Just in comparison, you know, 1.5 million acres is planted in the U.S., 90 million acres of corn and 85 million acres of soybeans. You know, so it's a small industry in comparison to the other commodities. So I think that's part of the reason that, you know, it's closer knit. And this convention itself, it's been going on for a lot of years, and it was always a family type. It was the people used it as a time to take a vacation, so all the children came.
They were just family conventions. We would take all of our children. Once a year, they would all kind of grow up together. They'd see one another once a year, and they'd go all the way through grammar school and high school together, seeing these friends that they saw only usually once a year at the peanut conventions.
It's a great people industry. You know, people care about each other, even though you're competitors with different trucking companies, shellers with different shellers, manufacturers with different manufacturers. You know, you come to these conventions like this and you know that there's different meetings going on with different people and there's different deals being done, you know, to get their business done. But when it all said and done, we're in an industry to serve the American public, not just American public, but worldwide.
You come together on issues that are industry issues, so we've found a way to come together to to try to accomplish industry issues.
In my whole career, in the 40 years I've been in the business, certainly the Sheller Association has been a place where we would go to get educated, to learn. When new people would come into the business, they would hold seminars. I mean, that it was also a pathway of communication for all of us.
The APSA has been very vital to everybody that's in the peanut shelling business. Some shellers have not joined up, but it's their loss in my opinion. But they help with lobbying. They help with keeping us updated on regs. They help to consolidate the industry by getting the Virginia group and the Southwestern group to come into it to be one operation, one sheller operation instead of 3 different entities out there fighting each other.
It's enabled the shelling industry to stay vibrant and viable and to stay relevant to the process. And so you haven't. That's why I think you've not seen a lot of manufacturers move into the shelling business because they were able to stay capitalized and able to stay relevant.
So the APSA, which used to be the Southeastern Peanut Shellers Association when I first started in the business, was, I think, part of the catalyst of having those conversations with the other groups.
I think that's very, very important, and it's able to get things done that I don't think we could have gotten done otherwise. And the fact that we've got, I think, probably one of the best relationships with the farmer group today that we've had in years. We're not at each other's throat like we were for many years. And I think that a whole lot of this unification has helped make that happen.
One thing that I really remember that was a tough situation and something good came out of it was when the Peanut Corporation of America had the salmonella problem, and I was about an hour outside of San Antonio when I got the call from the Georgia Department of Agriculture that we had a problem. But our industry comes together, and from that now we have something called Peanut Proud that puts peanut butter in the food banks, because we said, we're not going to let this problem from one small processor take our industry down. So by being close-knit and all of us working together, we take bad things and can make them good.
During the low-fat craze, which was a crisis, it's probably the biggest crisis we faced because the industry consumption was just going this way. And if you looked at magazines, they were comparing peanuts to, and the health benefits of nuts to lard, bacon grease. The reputation was just awful. The industry was dying, and we were really in bad shape. In this marketing meeting, we had heard of a study done in California by Loma Linda University. They were looking for a food that would help prevent heart attacks, and nuts was the one that stuck out. So we had sort of a glimmer. So the council hired this woman to do research on if anybody else this was sort of pre-internet, if anybody else was coming up with the same thing. And sure enough, there was sort of little glimmers, nothing big, but little glimmers here and there. And so we thought we should form an organization, the Peanut Institute, to do research and to educate people on, assuming the research panned out, what was good. So we sort of took it on, and of course now the industry's together and everybody's working together, and it's been extremely successful.
I got involved in the shelling industry and APSA in 1970. That was really, really early, only about 3 or 4 years into what we turned out to be a major crisis, and that was the discovery of aflatoxin in peanuts.
Years ago we thought that the manufacturer said, oh, you got a few rocks, you got a few sticks, you got a few this and that, the quality's not the best, but I can use it all right. If you had a claim, you'd pay a few dollars and that was it. But aflatoxin issue was not a big issue. They weren't really concerned about it, but we thought the world was coming to an end when we heard that this is bad, and you heard about the problems of the aflatoxin showing up in England, you know, with turkeys that were fed some meal that had it, and they passed away, and that was kind of the kickoff on it, and it frightened the industry a great deal. Everybody involved was frightened.
So the industry had to decide how it could maintain the food supply, at the same time maintain the safety of that food to the consumer. APSA played a major role in that. The leadership of the APSA played a major role in that. What was created was a peanut administrative committee, which initially just extracted the peanuts that had aflatoxin in them off of the market. But initially, because of the leadership, I think, of strong leadership of many people in the APSA, that process began to be not just to eliminate the peanuts that were contaminated, but to also eliminate the aflatoxin out of the peanuts so that you didn't subtract anything from the food supplies.
When the aflatoxin problems came into this industry, it was a major problem. And the peanut industry, I'm proud to say, in my opinion, I think it was the only self-enforced quality product that was in the marketplace. But a peanut administrative committee was established, and it controlled aflatoxin levels. And we sampled every bag of peanuts, a handful of peanuts out of every bag of peanuts.
We can handle the problem so much better than we ever could. And I think it's something today we clean up on our own. And the product that we're shipping out to the manufacturer is really a top quality product.
The peanut business started out, of course, and after World War II. During the peanuts were planted during the war to make peanut butter for the soldiers and that type thing. So after the war, they decided the people that had planted peanuts, they did a supply managed program, and that's how peanuts, and they got a quota. And so unless you had a quota, you couldn't grow peanuts for the U.S. market.
Within that limitation, they were given a price that would give them some financial security. With peanuts, that initially was an acreage allotment. So if you had history of growing peanuts, you were given so many acres that you could plant peanuts on. And you were the only people that could grow peanuts. Then with the advent of new varieties, breeding research, yields began to grow and grow and grow. And so the acreage produced a lot more peanuts, and the government had to support the price. So we shifted to something called quota pounds. Rather than acreage, you were given so many pounds that you could market at a subsidized and supported rate. So you had a two-price system, and the price of your quota peanuts inside the United States began to get pretty high and out of balance with the world price of peanuts.
Part of that program was there was a prohibition against any peanuts coming in from any other country. So the peanuts were supported in the U.S. at over twice the world market. But they were able to do that because there was a prohibition against peanuts coming in. Well, then along came the trade agreements, NAFTA, the North American Free Trade Agreement. You know, that was an agreement between Canada, the U.S., and Mexico. Even though Canada didn't grow peanuts, Mexico did. So all of a sudden, you had world market peanuts could come in and compete with those much higher priced peanuts.
You know, the industry used to be very, very dysfunctional, and I think most would agree with that. The growers and the shellers and the manufacturers, they all kind of fought each other, and nobody sat down and said, you know, what is it you really need out of this thing? We may not agree on this, but let's try to formulate something we can move forward for everyone. And you didn't have that unity. And once the peanut industry went to Congress with some unity, things started to get done, and the industry really seemed to mature quickly.
I have represented shellers, and therefore my perspective and my bias is toward what shellers want in legislation. We have worked with growers and worked with other groups to try to have a common position for Congress.
When John Powell and Evans came in, and the rest of the leadership of the organization, we had never participated in legislation per se. We didn't do any lobbying, but maybe once every 5 years, if they were having a farm bill debate, we might make a trip up. One of the senators from Alabama, Senator Howell Heflin, finally told us one time, he said, you know, boys, if you want to participate, you got to be here more than once every 4 or 5 years. I think legislation has been probably one of the things that we've helped to bring the industry together with, because in general, we worked with the growers and with the manufacturers of saying, okay, let's get something that works for everybody. But I think overall, that's probably been our greatest contribution, being kind of the middleman, so to speak, between the grower and the manufacturer and the consumer.
Well, American Peanut Shellers certainly gives a good, forum to sit and talk about what our segment really needs, and John and Evans and the Legislative Committee always do a good job of listening to the needs we want and then going to the other entities, listening to what they've got to say and formulating a plan that will reflect as many of our needs as is possible while working with them on something that they know they can get through Congress.
In 2002, the industry pretty much came together, not entirely, but pretty much came together, and the government bought out the old quota so that the people that had it, in many cases had bought it, were made whole, and then there was now anybody can grow peanuts, and in whatever quantity they want to grow them. We eliminated all these quotas, and we drafted language and worked with particularly the chair and ranking member in the House Agriculture Committee. And then people today, farmers can grow what they think is appropriate, or not grow, whatever they wish.
I think then it was not so popular, but I think now if you ask the growers and the industry, I think it was a move that helped to stabilize and keep the industry here in the U.S.
So there was a big shift, I believe, in that time frame where we were able to accomplish much more legislatively, regulations-wise, things that we needed, things that needed to be changed. Our voices were louder, and I think we all recognize the benefit of that.
To me, the American Peanut Shellers Association and all the shellers are the catalyst for the whole peanut industry. They're the ones that get out and, secure the peanuts or make sure they're planted, and then monitor the way the farmers, grow their peanuts to a safety standard, and then bringing them in and getting the finished good to the manufacturer. So really, they're the Shellers Association is the apex for the whole industry.
I wouldn't take anything from my years of being in the peanut industry, even though I was in the manufacturing side, being privileged to be on the sheller side, which allowed me to be in contact with and have a lot of relationship with the grower side, quality people. Anytime you're dealing with people who are dealing with the land, that tells you something about their personality and their quality.